Microsoft Word is a word processing program, and basically what that means is that you can write and store your text within the program. To open up the program, you can see here I've got my shortcut on my desktop. If I didn't have it there, then I'd have to come down here and click on the Start button and either type in the name of the program, Word 2010, or click on All Programs, and then scroll to find Microsoft Office, the folder, click on it to expand it, and there it is. It takes quite a few clicks to get there to open up the program. What I did instead, let me click off in a blank area, is created that shortcut to the Word 2010 program here on my desktop. I could also create it down here on my taskbar, and if you're like me, you're about shortcuts as far as opening up your programs, then you want to watch my Windows 7 training video on those shortcuts. In any case, to open up the program, I'm going to double click on the shortcut, and boom, there we go. So anytime you open up the Word 2010 program, this is basically what you're going to be seeing here. And what I want to do is I want to give you a quick overview of what you're looking at by starting in the upper left-hand corner and working my way down to the bottom. So in the upper left-hand corner, you have the blue W. The color blue and the W is an indicator that you're in the W for Word, the Word program. And then over to the right of that, you have what's known as the Quick Access Toolbar. They call it that because you can quickly access the tools or commands on that bar in a single click. You can see that when I hover over one of the commands, it pops up and it says this is the Save command. Then when I click on it, it'll save my document. Then over to the right, it's the title bar, and it's got the title of the document. It's kind of a generic title. So anytime you open it up, it'll be either document 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It doesn't matter because you can rename that when you save your document. And you can rename it like My Spiffy Document, My Business Document, whatever you want to name it as. And then over to the right of that, it has the name of the program that you're in. So again, you got a few indicators of the program that you're in by looking at the title bar, looking at the color here, blue for Word, or the W there for Word. Over to the far right, you have the three buttons, Minimize, the Restore Down, and the Close. Those are operating system features, so if you want to learn more about those, then you want to watch my Windows 7 training videos. I mean, basically, close out of the program, just click on the X. And then down below that, you have what's known as the ribbon. And on the ribbon, you have a bunch of tabs. And these tabs, when you click on it, updates the ribbon down below and displays a new set of commands. Let me go back to the Home tab. And this was first introduced into Microsoft Word here back in 2007. And if you haven't worked in Microsoft Word 2007, this is new to you, you'll realize that Microsoft got rid of the menus and the toolbars in favor of this ribbon. Why did they do that? Well, the menus and the toolbars were hidden. They had a lot of toolbars that weren't displayed. In fact, if they displayed all the toolbars, they'd have to stack it down below to, I don't know, halfway down your screen, which wouldn't leave you a lot of room to write in your document. So what they did is they just went ahead and they have these tabs. When you click on it, again, opens up a list of commands here for inserting things when it comes to the layout of your page, references, mailings. In any case, back on the Home tab, you have these commands that are sectioned off into what are called groups. And you can see that you've got a line here that sections off this group right here known as the font group. So the commands in there all pertains to your font. So if you want to go ahead and make your font bold, then click on the B for bold. If you want to italicize it, there's the I, or underline it, and so on. Now within each group, you may have what's called the expandable dialog box button. It's that little arrow. In other words, Microsoft couldn't fit all the commands into that group. So what it did is it created that little arrow that you can click on it to expand the group into another window. And it displays a lot of the same commands that you see here, the most commonly used commands. But also in addition to that, some of the less commonly used commands like effects. So I've got the preview window down here, and if I want to see what it looks like, if I want to go ahead and make the text all in uppercase, all caps, check it. You can see in the preview window it's all uppercase. Okay. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that, click cancel. So that's going to be available in quite a few groups, not all of them. Like you can see over here in the editing group, it doesn't have that expandable dialog box button. So what you see here is what you get. Now, in addition to all the tabs you have here, when you click on one and go to the other, it updates the list of commands there, or the ribbon of commands. Except when you come over here and you click on the File tab. In Office 2007, they had the Office circle, or the icon. It looks like the Start button, that icon there, that when you click on it, it opened up a menu. The File tab doesn't open up a menu. It actually takes you behind the scenes. It's known as the backstage. When I click on it, I can't see my document anymore. I'm behind the scenes. Because in the backstage view, as this view is known as, you can go ahead and customize your document. You can come down here to Options, and then you have other options here. You can go ahead and save and send this to somebody else, print it, create a new document, get some information about your document, open, close it, save it as a different file. In any case, things that aren't directly working with text on your document is behind the scenes or backstage here. To get back to the front stage, as it were, either come up here and click on the File tab, and you'll notice when I click on the File tab, it takes me to the same tab that I last left, like the page layout. So if I go to the Home tab and click File, then click File again, it takes me to the Home tab where I last left it. Or if I click on the File tab, you can come up here and go to the page layout directly. You don't have to click on the File tab again. I mean, whatever works for you. Let me go back to the Home tab. Then below our ribbon here, we have the ruler. You may not see the horizontal or vertical rulers. If you don't see it, then come over here to the far right, and it's a little button that says View Ruler. Click on it to hide it. Click on it to display the ruler. And then down below you have a blank document here, so you can just go ahead and start typing in your text. And then down below you have what's known as the status bar. It reveals the stats of your page, like how many words you have in your document, what page you're on, page 1 of 1. You can go ahead and right-click anywhere on the status bar if you want to change that, like you don't want to see page numbers. Uncheck that and the page numbers disappear. Let me go ahead and check that again because I would like to see what page I'm on. You know, if I'm on page 2 of 5, there's a total of 5 pages within the document. I want to know what page I'm on. In any case, let me click off in a blank area. And then over to the far right of the status bar, you have your different views that we'll cover in a later training video. And then you have your zoom effect, where you can click and drag to zoom in to see the text closer, make it larger, or click and drag this to zoom out. And then don't forget, of course, your scroll bar here over to the far right. You can click and drag that to scroll down to the bottom of the page, or click and drag that to scroll up, or you can use the up and down arrows. That works as well. Now before I go ahead and close out, there's one more thing I want to go over. Now we talked about the ribbon here and the different tabs, right? There may be times where there may be more tabs here. And those times will come while working with, for example, maybe like objects. So when I click on the Insert tab, and let's say I want to insert a shape, click on the shapes, and let's do a line. I click on the arrow. You see the black cross. When I click and drag a line, notice what happens up here on the ribbon. When you go ahead and you're working with different objects, pictures and things, and we'll cover this in later training videos, you may find yourself with additional tabs. In other words, they have special features that aren't found on these other tabs. They may be found on some of the tabs, but it condenses them all onto this tab here. Makes it easy for you to go ahead and work, in this case what I've drawn here, without having to bounce through these other tabs to maybe change the color of the line or to do shape effects or shape outline, colors, and other features that we'll talk about. So to get rid of the tab, I can either click on another tab, and it doesn't get rid of it because it's still there because I have it selected, but if I click off of it, then it disappears. It only comes back when I select that object. Now that I have it selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit the delete key on the keyboard and get rid of it. By default, when you open up Microsoft Word, the color scheme or the window around the document is in the color silver. If you want to change that, just come up here and click on the File tab, go down to Options, come up here, click on the General tab. By default, it's going to be selected. Then come over here and change this color scheme from, well, silver to blue or black. Those are your other two choices. If I change to black and click Okie dokie, well, there we go. It's now black. Now keep in mind that when you change it in one application of Microsoft Office, it changes all the other applications as well. So if I change it in Word and I open up PowerPoint, click on the Start button, come up here, click on PowerPoint. PowerPoint, the color scheme in there is also going to be black. So again, what you do in one will affect the other. So if I click on File, go to Options in PowerPoint, and say, now you're going to be blue, click OK, and then close out of PowerPoint, well, Microsoft Word is also in blue. As you recall in the first training video, we briefly went over the Quick Access Toolbar here. And again, they call it that because you can quickly access the tools on there or the commands in a single click, like the Save button. Go ahead and click on it to save your document. They have the Undo and the Redo, which aren't available right now because I haven't done anything down below in the document, which we'll cover later. Then I added the Save As command so I can save it as another copy of this document. And to go ahead and add commands to the Quick Access Toolbar and to remove them, well, to add them first, you can go ahead and click on the corresponding drop-down arrow next to the Quick Access Toolbar. And it's got a list of the more popular commands like New, Open, Send it as an email, Quick Print. Let's go ahead and select New. So it adds the icon here that when you click on it, it opens up and you're in a new document, Document 2. So if I go ahead and close out of that, I'm back to Document 1. Go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow. We can add Open. Click on the drop-down arrow, and if you see that there aren't any commands here that you'd like to add, then come down here and click on More Commands. It opens up the window. Over to the left-hand side, it has a list of the commands, or the popular commands. and over to the right hand side what's currently being displayed on your Quick Access Toolbar. Of course, if you want to see all the commands, click on the drop down arrow and go down and choose all. And it's alphabetical. Well, the numbers come first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I want to go ahead and add the close button, I want to go to the C's, click and drag the scroll bar down to the C's until I see, there it is, close. Go ahead and double click on that. It adds it over to the right hand side. And I can go ahead and click OK, and it'll add them up here on the Quick Access Toolbar. But before I do that, you can reorder these as well. In other words, close at the bottom means it's going to be on the far right of the Quick Access Toolbar. If I want it in the middle, select it, then click the up arrow, and let's move it in between undo and redo. Okay, and then go ahead and click OK, and well, there it is in between undo and redo. The close button. So if I go ahead and click on a new document, I'm in document 3 now, I can come over here and click close. It closes out of it. If I click close again, it closes out of the last document, but not out of the program. The program still remains open. So that way I can just go ahead and click on new document, and I can go ahead and start typing in a new document here and not have to go back and open up the program again. A couple more things is that you can see that these buttons are getting they're tiny and they're really close together. So I could accidentally, click on one button and mean to click on another. And so what I can do is I can add what are called separators. In fact, you can see this little line right here. That's a separator. It divides that one or that icon from that one. And I can add quite a few of them so they're not so close together. Or you can go ahead and, section them off into groups. Maybe you're okay with how close they are, but you just want to have them in groups. Like here's one group, put a line here or a divider. Here's another group, put a line there. To do that, you want to go ahead and customize the Quick Access Toolbar. I like right-clicking on it and going down to Customize. Brings up the same window that we were in. And then under Popular Commands, there it is, Separator. Double-click on it to add the separator, and then go ahead and move it up to wherever you want to separate the icons with the line. So in between New and Open, let's add another one, double-click. So I have 2 between New and Open. Okay. Click OK, and there we go, 2 lines. That way, they're not so close together. This one's off by itself, so I don't accidentally click on one because the icons are so tiny. And then if I made a mistake and I want to remove some of those commands, just go ahead and right-click and say Remove, and right-click and remove, and just remove all of them here from the Quick Access Toolbar, the ones I just added. And then finally, instead of going through that list of commands in that other window, where you had to scroll through, if you find a command here and you want to add it to your Quick Access Toolbar, just go ahead and right-click on it. For example, if I want B for bold on the Quick Access Toolbar, go ahead and right-click on it and say you want to add it to the Quick Access Toolbar, and there it is. Okay. So that way, if I'm always on the Insert tab, I don't have to come back to the Home tab to click on the B for bold. That's 2 clicks. We just increased our productivity by adding it up here on the Quick Access Toolbar, so we just have 1 click instead of 2. Okay. Not only can you add individual commands to the Quick Access Toolbar, but you can actually add a group. For example, like illustrations. Just right-click in a blank area in the group and say you want to add it. And it'll add an icon that, that closely resembles what Microsoft thinks that resembles, that represents that group the best. You can see its shapes. When I come up here and click on shapes, it has all the commands within that illustrations group, okay? Just as if I came up here and you can see all the commands there. And like I said, when you're done, just go ahead and right-click on them to remove them from the Quick Access Toolbar. I'll leave the others up there because, this one I like, Save As. That's one of my favorites. Oh, one final thing that I think you might use, I left it to the end because I don't know if you want to add the expandable dialog box button to the Quick Access Toolbar. So again, as we talked about in that earlier training video, that we have the group, and if there's more commands here that can be fit into that group here on the ribbon, you can expand it and it opens up. Let me close out. You can also right-click on it and add that to the Quick Access Toolbar, and there it is. It's got some icon that best represents that group or the expandable part of that group. Click on it. It opens up the window. So in any case. Now new to Word 2010 is the ability to customize the ribbon here, which you couldn't do in the previous version of Word or Office for that matter. So to customize the ribbon, just go ahead and find an area anywhere and just right click, and there it is, customize the ribbon, select it. It opens up a window, the same window it looks like when it comes to customizing the Quick Access Toolbar. In fact, you can see it over here, Quick Access Ribbon. So for the ribbon, you got a list of the commands or the more popular commands. If you want to see all the commands, click on the drop down arrow and say you want to see all. And it's alphabetical, starts with the numbers, then it goes from the A's, B's, and C's. Then over to the right hand side, it has all these check boxes, and those that are checked are all the tabs that are currently being displayed on the ribbon, like the Home tab, Insert, Page Layout, and so on. The only one that's not displayed by default is the Developer tab. Go ahead and check it. And if you don't want to see a bunch of other tabs, then just go ahead and uncheck those, even the Home tab, which is horrifying because I like the Home tab. Click OK and it's gone. What do I do? Well, there's the View tab. There's the Developer tab. It has the code group, add-ins, and so on. So if you made a mistake, go ahead and right-click anywhere and go to Customize. And then, of course, let's check those tabs to reveal them again. Now, when it comes to customizing the defaults, these default tabs, and you can see the plus signs, you can expand the group to see the commands tied to that group. You can't select them and remove them. Access doesn't allow you to mess with the defaults. You can only either display them or hide the tab and the codes that are displayed on that tab. Now, if you want to go ahead and create your own tab, then come down here and click on New Tab. And when I click on it, let me scroll down, it's right there. I can go ahead and select the tab, and instead of having that generic New Tab, let's go ahead and rename it and call it Spiffy tab. And then go ahead and click OK. And then for the Spiffy tab, I've got a default group. I can add more groups. You know, I can have 2 groups, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And for the first group, let's rename it, call it. So for the display name, it's Spiff1. Now these symbols for the groups, I'm going to go ahead and choose a happy face for this one. And then we'll select that one, rename it, call it Spiff2. And let's choose the painter's palette and click OK. These symbols here, they won't be displayed until you actually add the group to the Quick Access Toolbar. Remember how in the previous training video we were customizing the Quick Access Toolbar and we were right-clicking and adding groups to it, and it chose the icon that best represented the group? Well, that's all these are here, is you're choosing an icon that if you add it to the Quick Access Toolbar, that's the one that's going to represent that group. You don't have to select a symbol, and if you don't, it's going to have a green globe as the default symbol that represents it if you add that group to the Quick Access Toolbar. So I click OK, and there we go. In fact, let's add one more. Let's add another group, and we'll leave it as that, just so I can show you that if I don't rename it, and I don't select a symbol for it, it'll have a green orb when I add it to the Quick Access Toolbar. So we have the Spiffy tab, we have a couple of groups. Now, within those groups, do we want some commands like, here we got a find command, so I can go ahead and select it and click Add, and notice that whatever I had selected over here, it adds it to that group. So if I didn't want it there, select it, and I can go ahead and select Remove, and let's select Spiff1, first group. Select it, click Add, adds it to that group. Okay, font, we can do Format Painter. Let's select the second group, click Add, and then New Group. We'll add macros, click Add. So I'm just adding what I think will be helpful for me. And you can add as many commands to these groups as you'd like. Let's do Font Color Add. In any case, you get the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and there we go. There's my Spiffy tab. And, well, it's stretching the icons, and so this one doesn't look good. In any case, I got the commands. I can click on the drop-down arrow, choose a color for my font. Either black is the default or green or some other color. Choose the font, drop-down arrow. So when I right-click the group and I want to add it to the Quick Access Toolbar, remember the happy face symbol that we chose for this group? And I right-click this one and add it to the Quick Access Toolbar. It's the paintbrush, right-click, add it. And by default, if you don't have an icon selected for your group, when you add it to the Quick Access Toolbar, it's going to be a green orb. So when I'm finished and I want to remove these, I'll right-click and left-click on Remove them. And I'm done with this. I can go ahead and right-click and let's customize the ribbon again. And I can either go ahead and uncheck that if I'm not going to be using that tab for a while, but I want it there in case if I want to use it later. That way it hides it, and that's fine. Or if you want to get rid of it altogether, go ahead and select it and just click on Remove, and it removes the tab and the corresponding groups. They're gone. Can't bring them back, okay? Now, if you've done a bunch of customizations, for example, I've got the tab here, and like I said, you can't mess with the original groups or the commands within the group, but you can certainly add additional groups to the developer here. So if I select Developer and I click on New Group, there you go, you got a new group, and you can customize that. So in any case, if you make a mess and you add all these new groups to all these tabs, and you got your tab, custom tab down here, and you're like, okay, I don't want to go through all these tabs and reset it back to 0. Just come down here and click on Reset, and either reset all the customizations so it zeroes out everything. You're back to where you started when you first opened up Word. Or if it's like the developer, you just want to reset one tab, then select it, come down here and click on Reset, and say you only want to reset back to the way it was, the defaults, for that selected tab. So let's go ahead and reset all customizations and click Yes. And what it did is it unchecked Developer because by default, Microsoft Word, when you open up the program for the first time, didn't have the Developer tab checked. And also, it didn't have my custom Spiffy tab. So it put everything back to the defaults. It cleaned out and cleared out all the groups, all the customizations. So I'm back to where I started. Click OK. No developer tab, no spiffy tab, and I can go ahead and start back over again. One final thing is that if this tab is taking up too much space, I mean, you may have a 50-inch monitor, and if you have a large monitor, this probably doesn't concern you, but you can collapse the ribbon here, either by coming up here and clicking on the collapse button there. Click on it to collapse it, click on it to expand it. You can see when I hover over that, it gives you the shortcut Control F1 to collapse it, Control F1 to expand it, or you can go ahead and double click on the tab really fast and it does the same thing. Double click to collapse, double click to expand. When it comes to customizing your status bar, as we talked about in the first training video, it's down here at the bottom of the window. It contains the stats of your Word document, like what page you're on, how many words you have in your document, and a few other things you can hover over, any proofing errors or using macros, and you've got some other features over here. But to customize it, just right-click on it, and then come up here and go ahead, and those that are checked are the ones that are added to the stat bar. And if you want to go ahead and get rid of it, like I said in the first training video, just go ahead and uncheck it. And the reason why I'm covering this again, because if you didn't watch the first training video, but you're looking for keywords like, I want to learn how to customize my status bar, you wouldn't know anything about that if you didn't watch the first training video. So at least you can look for the keyword here and pull up this video. And you can see down below that it's gone. Let me go ahead and check it. It adds it back. Page, you can do a line number, and it says I'm on the first line. When I click off in a blank area, it disappears. So when I hit the Enter key on the keyboard, you can see that it updates and takes me to line 2. Hit Enter, it goes to line 3, and so on. I'm going to hit the backspace key on my keyboard a couple of times so I can go back up to line 1, and it deletes the backspace key, anything that's behind the cursor. The delete key deletes anything that's in front of the cursor, and we'll go over that just a little bit more when we start creating our documents. So again, when you're typing your document and you want to find out the stats of the document, what page you're on, if you add the line feature to the status bar, then what line you're on, how many words. In any case, you can customize this. So I'm going to get rid of the line number here, and you can look over the others and see if it's something you want to keep track of. And then click off in a blank area, and the menu disappears. Now, when you're working on your document and you put a lot of time into it, you want to make sure you save your work, and we'll go over how to save your document. But in short, on the Quick Access Toolbar, you've got the Save button. Click on it. It'll want to save it. And when it saves it, if this is the first time that you're saving your document, it'll ask you 2 questions. Where do you want to save it? And what name do you want to give this document? Because remember, the generic name is going to be, well, Doc4, or you can see it up in the title bar up here, Document 4. And notice that by default, you can look up here in the address bar, it's saving it in the Documents folder, which is in the Libraries folder. I mean, where the heck is that? I mean, if I'm new to the operating system, I don't know. But I can go ahead and change the default and say that I want to save all my documents to, let's say, my desktop. I mean, anytime you turn on your computer, the first place you go to is your desktop, right? You can save it to your desktop or set the default to save in a folder if you want to create a folder and call it My Spiffy Folder. So to change the Save Default Location, let me click Cancel. Come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Options, and then come up here and click on the Save tab, and then come over here and you can see the default file location, and it's in the Save Documents section. So what's the default location when it comes to saving your documents? Do you want it to be in the Documents folder? No. Let me go ahead and click Browse and say that I want to save it to my desktop. And if I come over here in the navigation pane, go ahead and select Desktop, and then click OK, and it updates the address here to save it on my desktop. So when I click OK, and I click Save again, voila, goes right to the desktop. It doesn't take me to that Documents folder, okay? When it comes to creating a document, it's really easy. I mean, all you have to do is open up Microsoft Word, and there you go. You got a blank page. You just start typing. But if you pull up Word and you don't see a blank page because maybe you closed out of it, then just come up here and click on the File tab, go down to New, and there we go, Blank Document. Go ahead and double click on that, and boom, opens up a new blank page. But now I'm going to go ahead and close out of that because I already have a blank page. And then you see where my cursor's flashing. Wherever that's flashing, when you start typing, it'll add your text. So you can go ahead and type in, well, maybe a recipe or a letter. I'm going to go ahead and do a memo. Type in the name of my company. And then when I'm done typing in on the first line, I'll go ahead and hit Enter and go to the next line down below it. And I'll type in maybe a slogan here. And then I'll go ahead and hit enter once, and instead of just typing again below that line, I'll hit enter again so I've got some space between that line and this line that I want to add, let's say, regarding us. Now if I made a mistake and I'm like, whoops, I didn't mean to type in regarding, how about, well, about us, then you want to take your mouse and move it, and you see your mouse is looks like a capital I. It's known as the I-beam. When you go ahead and you click at the end of the word, just after the G, you can hit the backspace key on the keyboard and it deletes everything that's behind the flashing cursor. So backspace, backspace, backspace. Or you can click in front of the word, so my cursor's flashing, at the beginning of regard, and hit the delete key because it deletes what's in front of the flashing cursor, okay? Delete, delete, delete. And then I can just go ahead and type in about. Now when I type it in, it's going to push the text here over to make way for the new text. So if I type in A-B-O-U-T, there you go. You see how it pushed it over. Now as you're typing along, if you're looking at this and going, I'm not sure if I have the right amount of spaces in between that word and the other word, maybe I've got 2 or 3, or how many lines do I have between this one and that one? Do I have 2 blank lines or just 1? What you can do is you can come up here on the Home tab to the Paragraph group and then come up here and click on Show Hide Codes. When you click on it, Microsoft reveals codes that aren't printable, so don't worry about when you click the print button that these codes are going to be printed off, but it tells a story about what's going on with your document. For example, anytime you see those little dots in between words, those are you hitting the space bar. Those are spaces. And then the paragraph markers at the end means that that's a new paragraph. Means that everything to the left of that marker is one paragraph, and it separates it from the next line, which is another paragraph. So I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraph markers, hence 4 paragraphs. Now don't think of paragraphs as, well, what we learned in the English class, what the instructor taught, where 2 or 3 sentences make up a paragraph. It's different with Microsoft. Anytime you hit the Enter key on the keyboard, that's a new paragraph, whether it's a blank line, or whether you just have a few words, or you've got like 25 sentences. If you keep typing, what will happen if you never hit Enter is that when you get to the end of your document over to the right-hand side, before you hit the 1-inch margin, it'll wrap it for you. In fact, let me show you. Let me go ahead and click at the end of us here because I can't click down here because we've never been down there before. So Microsoft says you can't come down here unless you hit Enter, and then it takes us down to, well, uncharted territories down below in the blank page. So I hit Enter to get down below, and then I can just go ahead and start typing. And I'll type in And I don't know if you have your rulers turned on, but up at the top you can see my horizontal ruler. If you want to be able to view it, then just come over here to the far right-hand side. You see where it says View Ruler? Click on it. Well, it hides it now, but click on it again to display it. And you'll see that I've got about, on the lighter shade part of the ruler, I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 inches to work with. Because on the right-hand side, in the darker shade, I've got about 1 inch on the right margin and 1 inch on the left margin. That's why it's starting so far over to the left here. So when I get to the end and it's about to hit the margin, don't hit the Enter key on the keyboard, just keep typing, because Word has what's called text wrapping, that if it can't squeeze everything here, it'll just automatically wrap it and take it to the next line down below. So I'll hit the spacebar and type in. There you go. I typed in Essential and it could squeeze it there. If I hit Enter, you would have seen a paragraph marker here, but instead it carried the paragraph marker down. So I'll keep carrying that down, 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 as many sentences that I want to type in until I actually hit the Enter key to break it off and say, okay, this is a new paragraph. So let me go ahead and type in the rest of this sentence here. And I can think of a couple reasons why you don't want to hit the Enter key or be Enter key happy, but let the text wrapping work for you. One is that, of course, it'll slow down your typing speed if you have to hit Enter at the end of each line. Second of all, and probably more importantly, is that in the later training videos we'll learn some advanced features that Microsoft actually relies upon these codes. So if you're going nuts and you're hitting Enter constantly at every single line, it'll look at those codes, and these features will give you some erroneous results. Because again, it's looking at those codes to be able to apply the feature correctly to your document. But in any case, just go ahead and keep typing until you get to the end, unless of course you actually want to create a new paragraph, then go ahead and hit the Enter key. I'm going to go ahead and hit the spacebar twice. You can see that there's 2 dots there, so I've got 2 spaces. If this annoys you and you don't need to see the codes, by default I keep the codes hidden. Unless I need to find out what's going on with my document, then I'll turn them on. So to turn them off, again, just go back to the paragraph group, click on the button to hide them, and then I'll go ahead and continue typing. Now, if I type in a misspelled word, I'm trying to type in this, but of course I typed it incorrectly. Watch what happens when I hit the space bar. Boom, automatically corrects it for me. That's called the autocorrect feature. Microsoft Word is programmed that it'll take the most commonly misspelled words and correct them for you after you hit the space bar. So if you hit the space bar and you're like, wait a second, I don't want it to correct for me, what you can do is you can hover over that word, and you see that little blue line underneath the letter T. Go down to it. It'll expand into a little tag, also known as a smart tag, and then click on its corresponding drop-down arrow and you get some options. You can either change this back to, well, the misspelled word. I mean, you wouldn't want to do it here, but maybe you have a name that's correctly spelled but Microsoft doesn't recognize it. I mean, this is one of the ways that we can say, no, change it back to the way I had it. Or stop altogether automatically correcting this misspelled word. Or you can go ahead and control the autocorrect options. Go ahead and click on it. Opens up a window. In fact, if you come up here in the replace box and type in TIHS, you can see down below that anytime you type this in, it'll replace it with this down below. So you can select it and delete it so it doesn't constantly do that if that annoys you. In any case, we'll cover this in a later training video, but at least you got a heads up of where it's at, okay, what to expect. So that's the, again, autocorrect feature. Let me click cancel, and then we'll just keep on typing here. In fact, I want to hit the backspace key a couple of times, and let's type in. Now I'm getting to the end again, so I'm not going to hit the enter key on the keyboard, but just keep typing. And again, the only way I'll know is to come up here and reveal the codes. Let me keep on typing here to finish this up. So I've just got 2 sentences here, and coming up here, clicking on the show hide codes, you can see that still all one paragraph here, according to Microsoft, because I haven't hit the enter key. And if I came up here and right after this period hit the enter key, it would actually have this as a paragraph and that as a paragraph. Let me come to the end here and I'll go ahead and turn this off so it doesn't annoy me. Now that you finish your document, you want to be sure to save it, so you want to watch my next training video on Save and Save As. Now that we got our document created, you want to be sure to save your work so you don't lose it. And to do that, you want to come up here and click on the Save button. When you click on it, it's going to perform a Save As. You see where it says Save As? It doesn't save it because the Save As feature is going to ask us 2 questions. First of all, where do you want to save your document? Where on your computer? On the desktop? In your Libraries folder? You choose the place. The second question is what name do you want to give it? Now you'll notice the default name is the first couple words within the document, Dreamforce, and there it is, Dreamforce. So it's trying to be helpful. If you don't like that, then you can just go ahead and hit the delete key on the keyboard and type in, well, I'll type in my spiffy doc. And then again, where do I want to save it? I can come over here in the navigation pane and choose the desktop. And then over in the main window, what's on my desktop? Well, my exercises folder. I'll double click on that. And then I'll go ahead and click save. When I click save, it puts it right into that folder. And it will change the title bar up at the top from document 1 to the file name here, my spiffy doc. So let's go ahead and click save. And there we go, my spiffy doc. So now that it's saved, if I make any changes to the document here, like I come back and I delete the period there, I'm like, okay, I made my changes. When I click on the Save button again, it doesn't open up the Save As feature because now it knows the name of the document, it knows its name is My Spiffy Doc, and it knows where it should be, which is in the Exercises folder. Okay, so if I close out of here and I double click to open up the Exercises folder on my desktop, and I come over here, it's sorted alphabetically, so there's M, My Spiffy Document, double click on it. Hey, isn't that great? I need to add a period. So go ahead and add the period and save your work. So again, anytime you're saving your document for the first time, it's going to perform a Save As. It's going to ask you the 2 questions. What name do you want to give me and where do you want to save me on the computer? Now, if later on you want to be able to create a copy of this document here, maybe as a backup or to give to somebody else so they can make changes to it and they don't overwrite your original work here, well, then you want to do a Save As. And the Save As window, let me go ahead and let's delete the period here. So what I'm doing is I've got my original document, My Spiffy Document. As long as I don't click Save, it's not going to show that the period has disappeared because I haven't saved my work yet, right? But if I come up here and click on the File tab, go down to Save As, it brings up that Save As window, right? Which, by the way, when I close out, it's that icon that I added to my Quick Access Toolbar, Save As, click on it, opens up the same window. So this could be my Spiffy Document, backup, or just type in 2, make some space there, My Spiffy 2, and then click Save. It does a couple of things. First of all, it'll save it as My Spiffy Doc 2. Now what happened to the original? Well, the original is no longer up. It's now my spiffy doc 2. So I have my original and I have the second or the backup document without the period. Well, how do I know? If I go ahead and close out of here, there we go, original and the copy of it. There's the document original with the period. Come back down here, click on the exercises button, and let's open up number 2, double click, and there it is without the period. So I have my original, and this is the backup, and I'll close out of that. And close out of my folder. Now there's one more thing I want to cover here, that when it comes to saving your document, I've got Word 2010 here, okay? If somebody has an earlier version of Word, I'm not talking about 2007, but earlier than that, like 2003 XP or 2000, when you send them documents from Microsoft Word 2010, it may not be compatible. So to avoid the hassles of them trying to open up your document in an earlier version like Word 2003, just go ahead and save it back to an earlier version. And you can do that by using the Save As feature as well. Come up here and click on, well, my Save As button's up here, but you can click on the File tab and go down to Save As. And it's going to ask us the 2 questions. Where do you want to save it and what name do you want to give it? But we want to change the type because the type right now is a Word 2010 document. How do I know that? Well, let me click on the drop down arrow and show you the difference between the two. There's earlier versions of Word from 97 to 2003, and the extension, because that's what it's referred to as, the .doc, that tells the operating system what program to open up this file in, and it ties that to the name of your file. Let me click off in a blank area. There's my name. You see the .doc. See how it adds it? It extends the name. Again, that's a cue for the operating system to open this file up in Word 2010. But when I change this and I say, let's go ahead and create an earlier version of it, and I save it as a document from 97 to 2003, then when I go ahead and save it, I can email that off to my friend Bob, who doesn't have Word 2010 or 2007, but has maybe Word 2000 or 2003. That way you can open it up and not have any problems with opening it up, as opposed to opening up a later version of it, okay? So I'll go ahead and select that, and then I can change the name if I want, or just leave it the same. It won't overwrite it, because again, the extension here is a .doc as compared to the extension here, .docx. Now let me explain it this way. What's the X for? The X stands for Extensible Markup Language. It's basically a more stable code for the program. So anytime you save a file in Word 2010 with this X here, that file is going to be smaller because it uses compression. So that way when you email somebody, it won't take as long. And it also has improved recovery. It means that if your file gets corrupted for some reason, you have a better chance of recovering it than if you saved it in an earlier version of Word. So you've got stability and smaller files when you save your Word document in the Word 2010 program with the default, the .docx. So let's go ahead and go back to 2003, click Save. That's it. And notice up here at the top it says Compatibility Mode, because now it's not an original Word 2010 file. I mean, it was created, but we converted it to an earlier version, okay? So if I go ahead and close out of here, and let's open up my exercises folder so you can see it. I've got 3 different documents. I have my original with the extension .docx. Now, when you go into your folders, if you can't see the extension of the name here, by default, the operating system hides it, because if you delete this extension here, then Windows 7 won't know what program to open up this file in. It could be Word, it could be Access, it could be PowerPoint, so it says you probably don't want to mess with that. In any case, if you want to learn more about it and be able to display these extensions, then you want to watch my Windows 7 training video on extensions. I have mine turned on, that's why you can see them here, in any case. So you've got 3 different documents. We have this one, the original with the X, that was created in Word 2010, and then the second, which is the copy of it, again, Word 2010. How can I tell if this one, if I can't see the extension because that doesn't have the X? I mean, without the X, I automatically know it wasn't created in 2010 or 2007. But how do I know if I don't see the extension? One, you can hover over it, and you see the pop-up. It says Microsoft Word 97 through 2003. So that's one way that it was created in an earlier version. Or you can come up here on the command bar if it's in a folder, click on the drop-down arrow, and say you want to see medium icons. And you see the Word icon for the earlier version of Word. It's a different icon than to the most recent version of Word 2010. So there's another way. In any case, there's a couple ways to find out. Which, by the way, that one's a different one that was created. Let's scroll down to the ones that we created here. And there we go, My Spiffy Document. So there's My Spiffy Document, the original, the backup, and then of course the different icon because we saved it from the original as an earlier version or into an earlier version. I'm going to go ahead and come back up here, click on the drop down arrow and go back to my list view so I can pretty much fit everything to within this size window here. As we learned in the previous training video, when it comes to saving your document into an earlier version of Word, because let's say my coworker Bob doesn't have Word 2010, he has the earlier version of Word 2003, there might be some compatibility issues. How do you find out? Well, there's a couple ways. One, you can just go ahead and try to save it into an earlier version, and it will tell you if there's some issues, or you can just go ahead and come up here, click on the File tab, and go down to Info, which is already highlighted. So just come over here and click on Check for Issues, and come down here and click on, there it is, Check for Features Not Supported by Earlier Versions of Word. Click on it. If it finds any problems, it'll display it here, and it didn't find any, so I can click OK and then just send it off to Bob. Even though it was created in Word 2010, there's nothing incompatible about it with the earlier versions. I mean, it's just plain text. But if I do something really wacky and crazy, like come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the Illustrations group, and do some smart art, bear with me. Let me go ahead and select that and click OK, and you're like, what the heck is that? Well, this is one of those things that's not compatible with earlier versions of Word, okay? Let me go ahead and click up above it, and let's go ahead and see if there's any compatibility issues. I can come up here, click on the File tab. Again, there's Info to check issues, check compatibility, and it goes, hey, this smart art graphic will be converted into a single object that can't be edited because in earlier versions of Word, they didn't have anything like this that you could edit the text therein. But in later versions, you can edit the text therein, so it's going to convert it more into a picture, okay, or a single object that you can't edit. So there's a flag. So the person who gets this will go, hey, I can't make changes in here, why not? Well, then you can tell them because you got the warning right here. It converted to something that's uneditable, okay? Let me click OK. Or you can come up here and click on the File tab, go down to Save As, and as we learned in the previous training video, click on the drop-down arrow and try to save it as an earlier version between 97 and 2003, and then go ahead and let's save this as, let me click in here and hit the space bar and save it as My Spiffy Doc number 3, and click Save. It goes, again, we're having issues here, so you don't have to do the compatibility checker if you don't want to. You can just go right to saving it or converting it into an earlier version, or you don't have to convert it to an earlier version. If there's no issues, just leave it in Word 2010 and just send it over because they shouldn't have any problems if there's no issues when you do the compatibility check. So you can do it one way or the other. I prefer sending my document in its original form and not saving it as an earlier version. That is, if there's no issues. If there are, then I'll have to either remove the object here or know that it's going to be converted. And to help them out, I'll probably save it as an earlier version. So it says, okay, what do you want to do? Are you okay with this? If so, go ahead and click Continue. If not, click Cancel. And I'm going to go ahead and click Cancel here and not save it. And then I'll come up here at the top of my screen, and you see in the Quick Access Toolbar the Undo button. When I hit that, it'll undo what I just did. It'll remove my inserting of that smart art. Let me go ahead and click and drag to scroll it to the top. If somebody sends you a document like, let's say this one right here, converting to 2010, you can see the extension .doc, or you can see the pop-up that says it was created in Microsoft Word of 97. Well, it doesn't say it was created in 97, it just says somewhere between those versions of 97 through 2003. When you double-click to open it up, remember, this document is not as stable because it's missing that, well, that language, XML for Extensible Markup Language. So you're missing out on the automatic compression that's applied to the Word 2010 document and also the stability. So if there's any bugs or issues, because you have it, you can see up here in the title, Compatibility Mode, it's not really compatible with the Word 2010 program, then you may lose it. Your chances of recovering it are lessened. So what we want to do is we want to convert it from the earlier version of Word, which I don't know, could be 97, 2003, or 2000, to the current version of Word 2010. And when it does that, it'll take the extension of .doc and add the X, again the language that makes it more stable. So to convert it, really simple, come over here, click on the File tab, go to Info, it's already selected, and click on Convert. When you click on it, it says the action will convert the document to the newest file format, make it more stable, reduces the size of your file here, which is great. Click Okie dokie. And then when we're done, we can go ahead and close out. We can be sure to save our work. And then when we save it, we can come back here. And then it was this file right here, right? Converting to 2010. instead of .doc, it has the X. And when I hover over it, it doesn't say Microsoft Word 97 through 2003, so it's been converted. Double click to open it up. There's the X for extensible markup language, the stable language for Microsoft Word 2010, and it doesn't have in brackets compatibility mode. So I would make sure that anybody who sends you an earlier version of Word that you convert it, so that way it's more stable and a smaller file size. Now that you know how to create and save your documents, I created a new document here. It has a total of 2 pages. How do you find out? Well, you can see down here in the status bar, I'm on page 1 of 2 pages, or you can come over here and click and drag the vertical scroll bar and slide that down to page 2. You can see over here it updates. I'm on page 2 of 2 now. I go ahead and click and drag that scroll bar all the way up to the top, so I'm back up at the top of my document here, page 1. And the document's about my website here, familyehealth.com. We've got our mission here, and our website's a work in progress, but that's not the point. The point is that anytime you create a document, the default view of your document is always going to be in the print layout view. There's a total of 5 different view modes that you can view your document in, and to be able to change that or see what it would look like in those 4 other different views, then come up here, click on the View tab, go to the Document Views group, and there we go. You've got a total of 5. Again, the default is going to be the print layout. If you want to find out the purpose of the view here, just go ahead and hover over that icon. It gives you a pop-up and it says, okay, what you see in this view is pretty much as what's going to be printed off when you print this page. Now in this view, you should be able to see your both horizontal and vertical rulers here. If you don't see them, then go ahead and either come up here on the View tab to the Show group and check the box here, ruler. Of course, if you uncheck it, they disappear, but go ahead and check it. Or if you're not on the View tab, you can just come over here above your vertical scroll bar, just above that arrow. You can hover over that little icon. It says View Ruler. Go ahead and click on it. Of course, if it's already being displayed, it will hide it. Click on it again to bring it back up. In any case, you'll notice that the both horizontal and vertical rulers have 2 different shades of blue, a darker shade and a lighter shade. For the horizontal ruler, the darker shade is your left 1-inch margin. So over here, all the way down your document, is a non-workable area. Gives it some space so we can, make it look more aesthetically pleasing to the eye, more centered over here in the middle of the page. And then you have the lighter shade, the workable area, all the way down the document, and then of course your right margin, which is about 1 inch from the right side of the page. Then you have your vertical ruler, and you've got the top part of each page. That's a non-workable area where you don't put in text or images unless you want to work in that section and you want to watch my header and footers training video on that. But in general, it's a non-working section, okay? So everything's pretty much focused 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the sides, and also if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see 1 inch from the bottom as well. Those are the margins. And that's your print layout view, so you can get an idea when you're typing in your text that it won't print the bottom section here because there's nothing there, okay? The other views here that you have is the full screen reading view. Click on that. It turns your document from print layout into a book style format. So you've got your left and you've got your right pages. You want to go to the next 2 pages, just go ahead and click on the arrow. There's page 3 and 4. You want to get out of that, go ahead and click close. And then when you close out of that, it goes back to your default view, the print layout. Next we have the web layout. When you click on that, it'll show you what it looks like when somebody views it from the web browser. It's more stretched out there. And then we have the outline view. Now this one requires a separate training video to go over this view. It's a little bit more in depth, but in any case, let me summarize it. Basically, this view is for those headings that you have for your, well, in this case, for my paragraphs. So I have, heading and then the supporting body for the heading and then heading. In any case, I would go ahead and I select my headings here and give it a heading style like heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And again, that's another video about your styles. And what I can do is that once I convert this into a header, and all these others are headers as well, I can go ahead and collapse all the text here and just show my headers. So it's like an outline. So I can just view my headers, or I can go ahead and expand it and view not only the headers, but their supporting text there. Why would I want to do that? Well, there may be times where I got to give a synopsis of what I'll be covering, and I don't want to have to scroll to find each header. I can just go ahead and collapse everything so I just see my headings, step 5 family, step 4 emotionally, step 3 mentally, and just show those headers there and hide everything else. To get out of this view, let's go ahead and click close. And not only does it close us out of that view, but it takes us back to the print preview and it takes us over to the home tab. So I have to go back to the view tab to go to the last one, the draft. Go ahead and click on that one. The draft view is a mode that only shows text. So if I have images, it doesn't show those or any layouts. So the main focus here is just the text. And this could be helpful if you have a lot of pictures, but when it comes down to it, it's the content, what they'll be reading, not necessarily the pictures. Then you can hide those and then just go ahead and go over the content here, the text, making sure that everything reads correctly and that it actually has meaning without having to be distracted by the pictures. Then when I'm finished, go back to Print Layout View. That's my favorite view. I've created another document here. It's my Cure All Essential Oils document, and it has a total of 3 pages. Of course, you can see that down here in the status bar. I'm on page 1 of 3. And if I want to print this document off, I recommend that before you print it off, that you do a print preview, because in the print preview window, it'll show you exactly what's going to be printed. Not everything you see here is going to be printed. Well, here it might be because I don't have a whole lot that's going on. I just have some text. I'm not using some of Word's advanced features. But in any case, to be sure, because there are times when I've printed documents where it printed things that I didn't want to print, or it wasn't printing things that I wanted it to print, go to the print preview. So to print or to do a preview, it doesn't matter because they're both within the same area. Just come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Print, and there we go. You have the Print button here. Over to the right, you have the Print Preview window. So what you see in this window is what's going to be printed out on your printer. So I'm on page 1, and why is it so tiny? Because the reason why is that you can see the overall view. Is there text being cut off? Is there icons or images up here that shouldn't be printed that's showing up in the print preview? Because you can come down here and click and drag this slider to zoom in, and when you do that, you can see the text, of course, you can read it, but you can't see the other areas of the document, the left-hand side here, to see if there's something over in that margin that shouldn't be there. So you can either come back down here and click and drag to slide it back out, or over to the far right, click on the zoom to page, and it, boom, just fits the page right within that window so you can see all 4 borders here. And then to go to the next page, just go ahead and click the next page button, or come in here and delete it and type in 3, hit enter, takes us to page 3. Well, so far, it doesn't look like I've got anything in my margins. Things look aligned and balanced. I don't have a bullet point or some text here that's way over here. So I'd have to change it. And if I need to make changes, you can't do it in the print preview. You have to get out of this and go back to your Home tab or just out of the Backstage here. So you can either click on one of these tabs up here, like the Home tab, insert any tab to go to the front stage, or just click on the File tab again, and it will kick you out of the Backstage and you can make your changes here, okay? Another way to get back to the print or print preview area, the shortcut keys are Control F2, okay? Okay, if you want to print this off, just go ahead and hit the print button. But if you want to print a couple of copies, then go ahead and go up to 2 copies. I'm going to go back to 1. And then if you want to change printers, you have like 20 gazillion printers at your office. Go ahead and click on the drop down arrow and choose the correct printer. There's my default. Some other options, you can click on the drop down arrow and say that you only want to print the current page. The current page that I'm on is page 1 over here in the print preview. You can go to page 2 and print that page. Or you can go ahead and print a custom range. Go ahead and select that. And it says go ahead and enter specific pages or sections. Now if you come over here and you hover over that little eye, it's an information icon. It gives you an idea of what to type in to go ahead and choose your range. So if you want to go ahead and print page 1, you can see that little pop-up, just type in 1. If you want to print pages 1 and 3, type in 1, 3. If you want to print a range like 5 through 12, type in 5-12. So it doesn't print the first 4 pages, but it prints pages 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Go ahead and delete that. And if there's a section, which we'll learn in a later training video, you can actually divide your document into sections and say, okay, page 1, so I'll type in P1, and then let's say section 2, type in S2, so it'll print section 2 on page 1, okay? Again, you can just, if you forget, hover over that information. You can see down at the bottom of that little pop-up, P1 is page 1, and then S is for section 2, 3, whatever's on page 1 or page 2, in any case. Go ahead and delete that. Hit the backspace key, and then you can click on the drop down arrow and say, look, I don't want to mess with this, I just want to print all pages. Now, do you want to print on one side, or does your printer have a duplexer, which it can print on both sides? If your printer does have duplexing capabilities, you can print on both sides of the page. Let me click off in a blank area. You can do the portrait, or you can do landscape, which you can see it updates in the preview window, so it's more horizontal than vertical. Of course, we can go back to portrait, because that's the default, and I like that. And then do you want to print it on an 8.5 by 11, the standard sheet of paper, or is there some other sheet? And then you got your normal margins. Click on the drop down arrow. You can see it's set to normal. If I hover over here, it's still highlighted. So it's 1 inch on the top, bottom, left, right. You can go ahead and change it to a narrow margin on the top left, bottom right. So instead of large margins at 1 inch up here, you can half it down to ½ inches, or you can do your own custom margins here, which we'll cover in a later training video. But there's a heads up. Click cancel. And then we've got 1 page per sheet, or you can go ahead and double up and do 2 pages per sheet. So page 1 and 2 will be printed on 1 page. In any case, I'm going to go back to the default here. And there's more than one way to skin a rabbit here. So you do have your margins. You can also click on page setup, and there's margins here as well. You can do it in this window, make your changes there. You can also select the different paper. Instead of a letter, you can change it to legal or statement, or even set the width and the height of your pages. You can also change the layout. If you want your text centered up at the top or centered, if there's extra space down below, it'll push it down so it's centered in the middle of the page. In any case, there's a quick overview when it comes to printing off your documents. Some of these we'll cover in more details in a later training video, but for right now, I want to get you to that print window and also be able to give you a preview to see if this is something that you want to come out of your printer. So if things are cut off, you have extra blank pages, go back to the Home tab and make those changes. Now, because I changed this to landscape and then back to portrait, it looks like it's not stretching the page out to the edge here, in which case I can come up here, click on the View tab, go to the Zoom group, and click on Page Width. And it'll go ahead and stretch the page out to the width of my monitor. So if my monitor is a 50-inch monitor, it'll stretch the page all the way out to the right left-hand side of the monitor. Okay. Now, if you need some extra help, Microsoft has their help feature, which is found in the upper right-hand corner. It's that question mark. Go ahead and click on that, or you can see as I hover over it, it's got that pop-up window, and it's got the shortcut key F1. You can hit the F1 key on the keyboard, or again, click on the question mark. It brings up the same window. I'm going to go ahead and click on the maximize button so I can have that window fill the screen. And then if you're really bored and you got a lot of time on your hands, you can come up here and click on the Show Table of Contents, and it has a lot of books here that you can read about Microsoft Word, like formatting. Go ahead and click on the formatting. It opens up, and you've got a lot of options here, like how about learning how to apply strike-through formatting? Click on it. What is strike-through? It's basically slashing a line through your text. You know how you see the commercials on television where they say, okay, it's $49.95. They put a slash through it. But wait, now we'll drop it down to $19.95, plus we'll throw in a free Frisbee. In any case, that's what it is. You can see it right there. There's ABC and a line through it. So what you want to do first is select the text that you want to format. After you select it, then go on the Home tab to the Font group and click on the Strike Through button. It'll put a line through whatever you selected, okay? Well, if you don't have time to read through all these books, and who can blame you, but you want to be able to make a quick search for a keyword, like let's say that I want to find out how to print my document. So instead of going through all this, let me go ahead and close out of that by clicking on the X, come up here, click in the search field, and let's say print. And then come over here, click on the search button. Now when you do that, it's going to search for the contents on your computer, because when you install Microsoft Word on your computer, it also adds just a few help features, not a lot. So instead of searching on your computer, if you come over here and click on the corresponding drop-down arrow for search, you can see that it's searching for word help from this computer. How about we do it from Office.com, which has a huger database. So let's do all of Word from Office.com. Of course, you'll have to have internet connection. And there we go. It's more detailed here. Here's printing and print preview, or printing and print preview in Word 2010. Let's go ahead and click on that link. And then down below it says, what do you want to do? Well, I want to print part of a document. Click on that. And it shows you, as we just covered in the previous training video, how you can go ahead and make a selection here to print a selection or print the current page or print all pages. Now, when it comes to following the instructions here, if I go back to my document here, because down at the bottom for every window I have open, I have a corresponding button that I can click on, this button for that window, this button for that window. I cover all this in my Windows 7 training videos. In any case, if I want to be able to not have to go back and forth to go, okay, let's see, where is this at? And then go back to the document and then try to come back and remember where I was at. You can go ahead and restore this down. And after I restore it down, I want to come over here and you see that push pin? It says right now that it's not on top, but if I push it in, it says it'll keep it on top of this window. So if I click on that window, it stays on top, so I can bounce back and forth and read what's in here, make my changes here, and say, okay, where does it say to go to the File tab, and then click Print. Let's go to the File tab, click on it, go down to Print, and then what does it say here what to do? And then you can just go ahead and continue reading without having to click back and forth, but have one on top of another and follow the instructions there in the Word Help window. And then when you're done, you can go ahead and unpin it. And then when you click over here, it takes the Word Help window and it goes behind this window here. Or more correctly put, when I click on the button here, it pulls the window forward. It doesn't push that one back, it just pulls the other one forward, okay? Then when I'm done, I can go ahead and click on that to bring it up and close out of it, or you can just go ahead and right-click on that and left-click on Close Window, and if I click on the Home tab, we're back to where we started. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.